Thank you, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Boy, that was an interesting intro. Um, I'm Nicholas Haffter von Heide, host of this year's International Euphonium Summit Living History Series, and today we have a special guest with us today, and it is Stephen Alesso, TikToker, amazing individual. We got to spend the last hour and a half on the podcast before this actual recording went live, and you can get that link when it goes live at internationaleuphoniumsummit.com/Stephen-Alesso. So, with further ado, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Like I've been saying all the time, just thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for, having me on here. Thank you for reaching out. All like kudos and respect for putting this together, like knowing that because this is a one-man operation, right? So
So
much
far,
so much respect for handling all that stuff, and it's amazing to know that the euphonium world is headed in such a new and exciting direction. So thank you again for inviting me on here.
oh, absolutely. I mean, it was through others in our cohort that were like, "Hey, do you know this guy Steven Alesso?" I'm like, "He's really big online," and I'm like, "TikTok." I'm like, I'm not at all on TikTok. I kind of like steered away from it for so long, and then our cohort's like Steven Alesso, Steven Alesso, Steven. Oh, okay. I'll reach out, and I found you on Instagram. Reached out. Hey, you know, such and such said, and you're like, yeah. So here we are.
Awesome. I'm so flattered.
Yeah, you have some fans out there. That's for
Oh,
definite sure.
too kind, too kind.
Well, I mean, it's all going to be linked on his profile. Again, internationaleuphoniumsummit.com/Stephen-Alesso. It'll even have his link tree that goes to Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Amazon, and I'll put his Instagram and TikTok uh, profile stuff up there as well. Yeah, so what an amazing conversation we had. If you're interested in learning the behind the scenes and more in depth on uh, kind of content creation, we go over that as well as it looks like we'll be bringing him on for the actual summit to talk about content creation and content strategy. So really exciting to have him be interested in providing this amazing content strategy as he does for his current employer as well as for himself for his personal channels. Thank you so much again.
Of course. Yeah, anytime, anytime.
Okay, so let's jump in. With all the instruments that you play, what was really the first instrument that you started with, or was it singing that you started with, or how did it start?
Okay. So, um I apologize in advance, but my first instrument that I ever learned was trumpet. I started on trumpet in sixth grade and I played up until my sophomore year in college, not in college, in high school. And from that, playing trumpet it definitely is a very interesting experience just because you're normally put at the forefront of the ensemble, whether that be a wind ensemble or a jazz band or, in a combo setting, in a chamber group. Trumpet is just a naturally melodic instrument and has been orchestrated that way for many, many years. So that being said, I myself have a lot of performance anxiety. And so kind of always being the melodic instrument, the instrument with the melody, the instrument with you do duets with people. Um, I wasn't too happy about that. It gave me a lot of anxiety. And so I remember my sophomore year in in high school, we were doing second suite in F, and my high school band did not have a euphonium player. We didn't have a baritone player. And I knew that piece, and I was like, I kind of want that solo. So I stayed after school. Just like, I picked up like the school's like King American King marching baritone that was like lying around. Nobody was playing it. Um, and I started practicing. I was like, wow, I like the range is like so much like it's so much easier to have a larger range. I think simply because the mouthpiece is bigger and you're used to something where your embouchure is a little bit smaller and you don't have necessarily the physical room to be, more flexible with your range. So I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so much more comfy. Like I can be my musically expressive self and not have to worry about the anxiety of like, oh, like melody, like what? Who plays that? So I started to do that more after school, and I was like, okay, I think this is concrete. I think I definitely want to switch to a low brass instrument. Um, and that's exactly what happened then. So like a week or two passes by, and then I walk into like fourth period wind ensemble, take out the baritone horn. And I start playing, and I was like, wow, this is just so much more comfortable. This just makes me feel at home. And so, yep, the rest is history. So
What was it like bringing that baritone home for the first time, and your parents seeing the shift from trumpet to baritone?
it was jarring, because at that time I was also doing this other ensemble on Saturdays called the All City Concert Band, led by Jeff Ball, Eli Cronenberg, and a couple other assistant conductors. And I was playing trumpet for them for a long time, from freshman year of high school to my junior year of high school. Um, and so they had always seen me practicing trumpet, playing trumpet on stage, and coming home with this absurd 9-foot instrument. Like smells kind of weird because it's been in the case a
Yeah.
long time, like from the 80s, um very very confused. So I had to like explain to them like, oh, this is what this is. It's like the same principles, but like, it's an octave lower. Sounds a little bit darker. It's more conical than a trumpet. And yeah, they were just kind of like, okay, cool, keep doing that, I guess. And then I literally remember like my first day bringing that home and going on eBay and just like typing in the word euphonium, because I was like, no, I know I want one of these now. So they were so supportive of me, just like, of whatever musical journey that I had, even if I like, veered off to a different instrument, still super supportive. Curious, but supportive.
So what did you type in, and did you end up? Did your parents end up uh, gifting you that? No.
The answer is always no. Because I also like looked up euphonium on eBay and had just no concept of like what constitutes as like a quality euphonium. So I had to do like a lot of like, research on like, okay, like, these are the good models of euphoniums that you should look for. Um, Stay away from these models. Try instruments out before you buy them. Try mouthpieces out before you buy them. See what's comfortable for you. Because just listening to person A on euphonium.net is not super helpful. Like everyone has their own musculature and their embouchure. Everyone plays a little bit differently. Everyone has their own needs, and like an instrument and mouthpiece should be customized and personalized to you. Everybody's body is different too. Everybody functions differently. So I was like, okay, I got to do some more research, and I ended up making it had got to been like a 12 slide PowerPoint presentation. and showing that to my mom about
Wow.
why I should be gifted a euphonium, and it worked. I mean, it wasn't the best euphonium. It was a Jean Baptiste. So it's a stencil horn. It's like, around $1,000. But fully compensating. I think it was a stencil of like a Yamaha 642 or something. So it was like, decent for my own needs as like a growing euphonium player who like just switched. And I used that for a little while, and I auditioned for college on euphonium, like as
On
a
that
music
one.
performance major, on that same one, on that same Jean Baptiste stencil. And yeah, like I just was like, okay, I got to do like a lot of digging, because I feel like it's like a hyper fixation I will always have when it comes to like euphonium manufacturers. Like every every time I think I have found all the makers of euphoniums, it's always like another one that pops up out of nowhere. Like Geneva, I just learned about. Like they're
Viva's
like,
amazing.
I was like, oh my gosh, like this is insane. Like the metal variety you have.
Mhm.
And I was at the Midwest Clinic performing with the Brooklyn Wind Symphony this past December, and we got to like tour the exhibition hall where all like all the manufacturers are. And I tried out, I think, like 7 euphoniums that day. It was the most fun I ever had, because it was like I can just try the most expensive euphonium. I could try a Besson 2052 and no one's gonna stop me. So I got to try Besson, Jupiter, Yamaha, like Adams. Adams stuck out the most to me. That's the one that, like, if I ever plan on purchasing another euphonium, it's gonna be from Adams. Like I was like, oh my gosh, this E1 feels amazing. Intonation, spectacular. But yeah, for a long
Right.
time,
Just to geek out a little bit about that, have you seen Gary Curtin's
who?
Gary Curtin?
The name doesn't sound
Okay,
familiar.
Gary Curtin. So he plays for Fodens. Is he won the best euphonium at the British Open a couple
Oh,
weeks ago for brass bands.
oh wow, awesome.
And as we're doing this interview, uh, I absolutely love being able to be this connected and this blessed to. Oh man, so this is I'm pretty sure Gary has. I may be wrong, but just no. It is an Adams. It is. So I'm glad. I'm glad I'm not wrong. Okay, here, check this out. I'm sending him a picture of Gary's horn on the Zoom chat. It's the most gorgeous.
Oh, stop. Oh, that design is insane. Shout out to oh my God, Meinl Adams.
Uh huh.
I
Yeah.
think, man. Shout out to
Real.
him.
Yeah.
He's what a legend. Like, oh my gosh, what a beautiful horn. Like the main tuning slide trigger too. Like, oh my gosh, this is just so fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
come on, talk about a custom horn. Like that is like pinnacle of that. Like, that's amazing.
So it used to be Hirschberner was the creme de la creme of horns, and I've played on a Hirschberner. When I
Mhm,
got out of the military band system in '06,
mhm,
I befriended the euphonium instructor down in the University of Houston who had a Hirschberner, and he let me play it out, and I'm like, you know what? I don't see what the buzz literally is about. And then a few years back, and maybe I think it's now 8 years now since the last TMEA I was able to go to. I think it was TMEA or it was in February in Texas, San Antonio, and I got to meet Neil and I got to try out the Adams. I absolutely love Adams, but this horn specific, Gary's horn. Oh man,
I would do anything to try that horn. I mean, just to like hold it, like come on, just to like get a picture of you holding it, like that, like would be insane. What a beautiful design. Like, I mean, there's a reason why they cost so much, but like the time and energy and the craftsmanship. I mean, like
Exactly.
the inscription on that, like
They're all
fantastic.
handmade, and they're all hammered metal. Is supposed to stretched out machine. And I do like Yamaha. It just doesn't fit my body type. I like
Sure.
a stouter horn. I have a wider frame, and not just because I'm a little bit larger now than I was in the military. And my son has my Meinl Weston
Oh, nice.
451. That's my baby. That's one that was the dream horn I always wanted to get, and I ended up finding one on funny of sorts. You're talking about eBay. I found mine on eBay, and
Amazing.
yeah, and so that's too funny. But yeah, that's Gary Curtin's horn. It's the
Wow.
one of the most gorgeous representations. And then Mauro Martin's. I've
Oh, his E1,
Yeah.
I need it. I need it so I mean
So
also
he's on the cohort. You know that, right?
I know, which is like insane to me. Like, oh my God, I've been like following him for like the longest time. He's like extraordinary player, so humble, the most
Yeah.
gorgeous horn. Like, come on, like sterling silver bell. Like, oh my God, like so cool.
And then we got to geek out with David Weirden yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's an Adams artist, and
Mhm.
we talked about the metals because that's kind of my background too. I used to be in metal heat treating for ocean rigs and the metals
Wow.
that went into the lines there,
Mhm.
and so gotten to talk about had the opportunity to kind of geek out about metals and the metallurgical components that make up these horns. And we talk about cryogenics in relation
Wow.
to horns because you have to break these horns in. And sometimes, after you break them in, they don't function right. They're not,
Mhm.
they just don't respond to the player, or, something is amiss. And
Mhm.
so it was really cool. I can't wait to. I have the main video recording of him already up from yesterday.
Wow.
So
Awesome.
I'm trying to get all these recordings done. It's amazing. So going back into your, do you still have that presentation by chance, or was that as
Um,
your mom?
maybe if I dug around, I would have. I don't think I think it might have been lost when we like got a new PC like a couple months ago. I can double check on an old flash drive. I might have it saved there. I would love to show it to you. It's so funny. I like put pictures of like the euphonium that like the specific Jean Baptiste that I want and like go
Yeah,
through like, oh,
yeah.
what is a euphonium? Oh, like why is this important? Like it was just the most absurd thing you could think about. And just showing this to my mom, she's like, yeah, I understand none of this. So it was a good teaching moment for me because I was like also learning about like the instrument too. So I'll check around for it,
That'd
but
be awesome.
it might be far gone. But I'll definitely have a look because I really would like to just take a trip down memory lane with that.
I mean, with all the artists, I mean, we talked about this on the post, the before the show, um, before the video recording started, and we spoke about reaching out to the parents and reaching out to the future of euphonium students. And I think by far from what I've experienced personally, what I see with my kids and the other euphonium budding euphonium artists around all of Texas that I've gotten to meet, a lot of them don't have haven't experienced the greater euphonium world just yet. And that's what I love about this, because I'm like, guess what? We've got like over 50 artists, composers internationally, you know, just diving into their childhood. And just for you, I mean, and they light up getting to talk to them and saying they're doing this for you, not for me because I asked them. It's all for the future.
Mhm. Yeah, that's incredibly like special and like to contribute that much to the euphonium world too. Like again, so much respect and kudos for, pushing forward the future of euphonium players, the euphonium world in general, and like it's just everything related to the euphonium. It's just very important to like get that representation, accessibility. We were talking about that before the call as well, and just connecting. Like that's just like the interlying circles of the euphonium world. So tiny, like the world is so small, and so to connect on a global basis, let alone like on a state to state basis, like that's infinitely special.
So, with your second suite in F solo, was that before or after that presentation to your mom?
That was I think we were rehearsing it before, and then by the end of the school year, I had gotten that euphonium, so I got to use that for that solo. I think I could be wrong. I think no, I am wrong. Um, it was before. It was definitely before because I remember playing that solo on like that king baritone horn. Was not the greatest at all. Was an interesting interpretation to say
So,
the
are
least.
you okay? So, just to go back down memory lane, you're talking about the King Euphonium Diplomat 2280, right? It was the bell up, or was it a bell front?
Um, it was a bell up.
Okay, bell up, silver.
Lacquer.
Okay, so did it have that really monstrous fourth valve tuning slide?
No fourth valve, three valve.
Oh, okay. So there, okay, there you go. Yeah, so King Diplomat was like the top end of King. That's what I played in high school, actually.
Is it? I'm not 100% sure. Is it a baritone or is it a euphonium? Like that specific diplomat?
So the Diplomat will never be. It's a euphonium, but it's a non-compensating because the
Gotcha.
fourth
Okay.
valve is on the top.
Gotcha. Okay.
Unfortunately, and I never actually got to play on a compensating horn till I got in the Army band system.
Oh wow. Okay. Damn.
So that's
What was that switch like?
it was interesting because even in college, um, we had I didn't even have a compensating horn in college.
Hmm. Wow. Oh my
Wow,
God.
where what did it? I don't even remember what I used. I think it couldn't have been a 3-2-1.
Hmm.
Boy, that would be a crying shame. Oh, it might have been a 3-2-1.
Like a Yamaha 321?
Yeah, yeah, four valve topside
Oh man.
in college as a music ed major.
You work with what you have. Um,
Yeah, yeah, you do. Wow. I'll have to. No, there's no records of that. I mean, I might have. No. I'll have to dive really back into my memory here. So maybe it'll come to me in my sleep. Anyway, so the second suite in F was your pinnacle moment for Euphonium, like starting out and really accepting that as your voice. And it's really fascinating. So take us through that, like practice sequence and being at home and practicing the baritone instead of the trumpet. I mean, uh, I'm assuming you played trumpet for the All City Concert Band on Saturdays still at that time, right?
Sorry, Nick,
Yeah,
I keep
it kind of glitched out there.
cutting
Yeah.
in and out. I think I
So,
lost you for like 10 seconds.
okay, so you missed the whole entire question. That's fine. So, when you were preparing for that solo for the second suite in F, did you were you playing
Uh-oh.
trumpet for All City? Oh,
Oh,
so
Nick, so sorry.
okay,
The
yeah, the internet
I think the
connections.
connection. I'm so sorry.
You're good. I'm gonna see if I can fix this, and it's still red, unfortunately. So gotta love technical
Okay.
difficulties.
Oh,
Just
good.
a moment. So as we go here, oh, here we go. Pause. And then let's see. Let's see if that did. Oh, there we go. It's white. It's good. Alrighty. Saved it. I had to pause another device for the family. Uh,
Mhm.
that's fine. I have yet to hardwire the computer into the actual cable, so
Mhm. Yeah.
working on that. So the question was second suite and F preparation for on
Yes.
baritone. Did you have to? Were you playing trumpet for the All City Band still? Wow.
Yes. And also like at the same time, I hadn't mentioned this yet, but after school, we were also like putting together like a jazz band. So like I was also like playing trumpet in that too. So it was like a nice mix of like oh, have trumpet practice on these occasions and then like have some euphonium baritone horn practice on this occasion. Um and I think I was actually like in the wind ensemble, like in my high school's wind ensemble. I think I was like switching between both in certain pieces. I feel like I remember like having two instruments on stage and having to go between chairs during like a couple of performances for our spring concert. Um, so that was fun to do that.
That's cool. But okay, so where did your like why jazz band? What was the inspiration for like wanting to like step into jazz?
Uh, it's actually a great question. So my dad, he like normally like my dad would like be driving me to like the New York All City concert band like every Saturday, and this went on for like 4 years. And so like every morning like at like 8 in the morning like we would listen to the Glenn Miller Orchestra just on our ride there. It was like a 45 minutes, sometimes an hour depending on traffic, ride to this high school. And that was always like, in my head. I loved listening to, all the classics from Glenn Miller: Moonlight Serenade, In the Mood, American Patrol, uh, Pennsylvania Six 5000, like all your standards. And then from there, I also remember like specifically freshman year in high school, just going to, I mean, my room's changed so much from now, but I remember um like going to my wardrobe at the time and like pretending to like conduct like a jazz band, being like a band leader.
Oh, that's
um
cool.
so like In the Mood, or like the BBC Orchestra has great recordings of some of Glenn Miller's like popular charts. And I used to put that on all the time, and just like conduct that, just being like, oh yeah, like I can imagine myself like directing a big band. And so that was like kind of like the catalyst to me starting to, listen to a lot more jazz other than like 1930s, 40s, like, the big band sound, the wall of sound
Mm.
when people think of big band, or the classic sound when people think of what a big band is. And then yeah, after school, a couple friends and I, we were like, yeah, like I mean, we love listening to jazz. Let's just like put like a combo group together. So we put like a combo group together, and the school really liked that. So the administration office, like they would like sit into like rehearsals. They would like listen to us play like Birdland or something. We did do In the Mood, which was kind of like awesome to like play it actually.
Yeah.
Um, and again, it's a combo group, so it was like me on trumpet, I think another friend of mine on trumpet, clarinet, or two clarinets, like basic rhythm section, bass, drums, keyboard. And yeah, we would perform like in the atrium of like the high school. And we would play while people like would walk into the building. And everyone really liked that. So the administration office was like, let's just make this a class. So by my junior year of high school, it got made into an actual class. It was an actual jazz band. And it was like a typical jazz big band. Five saxes, AATTB, um, four trombones, four trumpets, four rhythm section. And uh, that was really fun because then I got to explore a lot of other styles of jazz that wasn't just like 1930s, 40s swing music. Like yes, we did do like Birdland, like with the combo group, but I didn't really know Weather Report. Or I knew who, of course, like because I was a trumpet player, like I knew who Maynard Ferguson was. Like he has that iconic recording of Birdland. But like I lack the knowledge for the huge I don't even know what to call it, like the huge like chronology, I guess, the huge like infrastructure. I'm blanking on words, but
That's fine.
the huge
So
avenues of jazz that there is more than just this one very specific pocket that I listened to with my dad. So we did like a bunch of like other like cool tunes, like Take Five, and some other like Sammy Nesco stuff. Um, and at that point, like I was I was also like in between instruments. Sometimes I would do like trumpet. This is my junior year of high school now. Sometimes doing trumpet. I was still doing all city on trumpet. And but in high school and in school, I would be bouncing around like between trumpet and then doing, playing that king baritone euphonium. And it was just like I was like, okay, I need to pick one or the other. Or the option came up to do trombone. Now the best part about switching from like between valved instruments, especially valved instruments that are the same pitch, um, fingerings all stay the same. Like, if you're reading B flat trumpet music in treble clef, there's options for B flat treble clef euphonium or B flat treble clef baritone parts. I was reading at that time like those treble clef parts that you will see, and like when you get like a when you get a score and like all the parts, that's a very like American thing to see with publishers. You'll see like, oh, the bass clef and the treble clef part. I would always be reading the treble clef part before I knew how to learn to read bass clef. So junior year was like a very exploratory moment for me to like, okay, you know trombone like in a big band, that's possible, I think. So again, I would stay after school. I would pick up we had like gotten a new order of like tenor trombones with like F attachments.
mhm.
Um and so I would be like practicing on that um like after school, just like figuring out like, okay, second position, third position, fourth position, fifth position, sixth position. This is so confusing. Like, oh my god, this is like so different than like valves. And like would get used to that over time. And eventually I started to work my way up like in the confidence of like taking the lowest trombone part in like a big band. Like granted, we were doing like grade 2, grade 3 like
Trumpets.
big band stuff, like arrangements. So like the fourth part, like professionally, like in a normal big band part, the trombone 4 part is like the bass trombone part. At that time, for those arrangements, it was just like the notes that were relatively like all within the staff, and like not like the highest, or not like like a trumpet 4 part, right?
Or a
um
tuba part.
exactly. So it wasn't like the most like range demanding for me. um but I started like to realize that like, okay, like yeah, like it has an F attachment. Like low notes are cool. Like I'm gonna like start practicing those from now on. So again, the cycle starts again. I stayed after school and I was just like practicing, like, like everything in like the trigger register, like the bottom trigger register of a tenor trombone. F, E, E flat, G, D flat. Um, a sort of in tune C.
So did you try to take that same knowledge base and apply it to your king baritone and try to work the lower range as well?
I definitely, well, sort of, only because, it's a three valve
Mhm.
instrument. So like, you lose about like three notes from like an F attachment tenor to like, a three valve baritone. But like, yeah, I mean, still within like that pedal range, starting from pedal B flat going down.
Mhm.
That's kind of like where I learned just to like figure out the embouchure very quickly for like those notes. Cause like I don't know about you, but like playing pedal notes, like it's just a different embouchure. Like I like it's a different um like set or
Right.
like
I used to play like I would always until I was recently like the last 3 years I corrected my embouchure because I used to play all my pedal range a different way, and then once I got to a certain note I automatically like let go and reset my embouchure a different way, just like a fraction of like just slightly different for
yeah,
everything else.
right. Yeah. That's I mean that's sort of how I feel, or that's kind of how I felt at the moment, like when I was like first figuring that stuff out, because it is like very jarring to think that like, yeah, I was also like coming from trumpet, so like pedal tones are non-existent, or if they are, they're really false tones, but I didn't know about that concept. So to be that stage in my like euphonium low brass playing career, and just to know like, oh, there's a whole other like range that you could like tap into, but like it requires different muscles to get those notes. So I kind of like learned to figure out where exactly those placements were. And like I was also using this is kind of embarrassing, and I hope no one shames me for this, but like I still use a box 6.5A. Well, at the time I was using a 6.5 AL.
Right,
I
for the
now
small shank.
have, yeah, like a small shank. But with my own main horn, like I use a box 6.5A, very shallow cup. Occasion like I do have a Dennis Wick 4 that I will use on occasion if I want more of a darker color. Like I've used it on the Bidlow solo just because like it's a little darker, a little bit more like I feel like I can get like those darker overtones easier. But with a 6.5, my normal driver, my 6.5A, I feel like I can go crazy across like every range I want, which is nice to have. But also makes me think like a 6.5A, like it is a very shallow cup. So I'm wondering if I'm like preventing myself, but like I don't know. It's
So,
comfortable for
so it's
me.
interesting you because you're not too far removed from your bachelor's studies, and while I was doing my bachelor's studies before I joined the military band, I explored the shallower cups, and I went into a 51B, a very very shallow cup because I was also doubling on trumpet in the the kind of concert band setting for music education majors,
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
double a instrument. And so I was like, well, I really want to work on my high range. And, I was like, I'll try this 51B out. And so I bought one and yeah, I played on it for a little bit because I wasn't developing on the 51D at all. I didn't like that the framework at that time, and I have like four 51Ds around the house. I mean, one of my kids has two of them. He
Yeah.
lent one of them out, and I don't know where the fourth one went. Um,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. So I'd like to kind of dive back into maybe on the next in series as we're wrapping this up, going back into possibly fifth grade, getting into sixth, and learning about, the trumpet and maybe why your dad listened to jazz, and looking forward into the next segment here, because we didn't even get to talk during the actual recorded segment here about the Covington Square performance.
Oh yeah,
So
I can.
we're gonna have to dive into that. So if you've listened to the podcast segment, you know exactly what we're talking about. But we will cover that again. I think on the next in series, because this has been really rich. I really appreciate it. Um, there's so many things that we sort of covered, and I wanted to touch base on and kind of go deeper into that seventh grade performance, or rather the high school performance in your seventh grade year, and a little bit of other things. So, kind of putting that teaser out there for those that are watching. Stay tuned. Some really cool stories with that. And if you don't know what we're talking about with the Covington Square, go listen to the podcast on your favorite listening apparatus or platform. Once it's downloaded on internationaleuphoniumsummit.com/Stephen-Alesso. Be sure to follow up with us on there, and I will definitely put the links in the YouTube video once they are live. So with that, everyone, thank you so much for joining us and joining Stephen Alesso and myself in this amazing series and journey, not only with us, but with you. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.